Hi everybody, TheDivineDemon here, and thank you for once again joining me on my journey as I go through my favorites list on fanfiction.net. Today is somewhat of a big day because we are finally finishing 2009, and that finishes that first decade of stories that I was reading. So let's jump in and finish it with Time Travel What by Harry Potter Lover 56. And as you can tell by the title, it's a time travel fic based on the Harry Potter universe. And it's not great. It's mediocre, you know, like it's filled with a bunch of like slightly meta jokes and like references to early 2000s stuff when this should be taking place in the 90s. And, you know, there's no urgency because, again, Harry was accidentally sent back to the past, so he's not super worried about the future or anything like that, and so he's just going around with an air of like casual stupidity and stuff. The humor a lot of this times didn't really hit me very well, and considering that I'm an easy mark for this kind of stuff, that's a big problem, and I assume that most people would just find this to be really grating or irritating. What else? Like, this Harry just seems to get stupider and stupider as time goes on, and like by the time like the author stopped writing, he was really an idiot, and like they showed one interesting idea and then just stopped, but didn't continue it and just stopped writing. There's nothing you really need to see here. It's very much something you can skip, and it's gonna fall off my list. Next is Sekirei Lifestyle by neenuhz, I guess. And yeah, I have no idea why this fic was on my list, because it's not great, it's not terrible, it's just not super funny, it's not super sexy or smutty. It's just the start of what seems like an okay Sekirei fic, where Minato wings Kazehana at first. It's not super overwritten, it's not frustratingly vague, it just exists. I really have no idea what I was thinking when I put this on my list. It's like aggressively bland, and it's not even finished, so it's like I really just don't know what I was doing here. There's nothing you need to know. You can safely skip this one. It's gonna fall off my list. Alright, more Harry Potter now with Harry Potter and the Soul of a Chimera by TheDivineDemon. And this is a story where like Harry meets a ghost when he's a kid, then gets attacked by Dudley's gang, which leads to him becoming a fusion of Harry's soul, the Horcrux, and the ghost soul. Okay. This doesn't get very far, so, you know, a lot of the interesting interactions don't really come into play. Harry does get adopted after this incident and stuff, and like that's where the stuff that's actually interesting is there, where Harry's interactions with his new family and where they just try to like connect or goof off. Those are genuine enough that they're enjoyable to read, and those are the best parts of this story. They aren't there super a lot, but it's really just like an interesting idea that didn't get far enough to actually pay off. And yeah, nothing much here that you really have to see. It's another one you can safe to skip, and it's gonna fall off my list. Now we go back over to Naruto with The Ultimate Adventures of Adults. I don't remember what the acronym at the front is supposed to be, but it's Every Woman Loves a Man That Will Listen To by Lula May Mobster. And this is a sequel story about Naruto being in a relationship with I think a few girls after the end of canon. I think because the first story was not on my list, and I looked into her author page and I couldn't even tell which story was supposed to officially be the first one of this, or like the actual prequel to this. So I was kind of confused when I was reading it. Aside from that, it's a bunch of romantic fluff. Well, Naruto's dating Tenten, but bangs Ino in the first chapter, and like I think the other girls all want to get with him as well. I was just really confused reading it, and it wasn't super interesting in a romantic drama sense either, so I just did not care. You can just skip this one. It was no problem, and it's going to fall off my list. Now, again, with more Harry Potter, is The Accidental Bond by KB0. And this is the cliche Harry Potter soul-bound fix, where, rescuing a girl, basically the main premise is whenever he rescues a girl, he gets a permanent, girlfriend or wife and, soul-bounds them. So, starts with Hermione, then gets Ginny, and then finally ends up getting Gabrielle as well, Gabrielle Delacour. And this story frustrated me, there aren't any problems, and there's quite a few changes to canon that make it interesting to read. It's not just a retread with them just being in a relationship. But yeah, I kept waiting for something really great to stick out. I just kept reading more and more, and I was just like, okay, it's good enough, it's fine, but there's no big hook to suck me in. Maybe it'll be in the next chapter, and it just never did. There was no big moment or interesting, super interesting section that drew me in. It was just constantly being okay, this is fine, I'll read it. I don't know, I just find this to be, again, very average writing that you'll have no, if you like the idea of soulbound fix, this is probably a decent or good one, and if that's what you want, go for it. For me, I couldn't find something to really latch onto and sink my teeth into for this one, so it's gonna fall off my list. Second to last for this decade, is Sekirei In by Shouty McShouty. And yeah, this is basically Love Hina but with Sekirei. Minato goes to become the caretaker of the Sekirei Inn, which is filled with women who are just wanting to be entertained. Basically, what if Love Hina but all the girls were kitsune, or at least multiple kitsune were there. This barely gets off the ground. And while it does get a bunch of confrontations with the main characters there in a short time, there's no huge haha laugh moments that I had. So this is another one I'm not really sure why I put this on my list, other than maybe I just saw when it first came out and I was like, oh, this initial idea sounds really great, I'll just pop it on, because I know I did that sometimes where I was just oh, this idea is great, there's only one chapter, I'm sure it'll be great later. But yeah, what's here now is not enough to stay on my list, and it's another one you can skip, no problem, and it's going to fall off my list. And finally is Quo Vadis by Ruskbite. I've liked many of Ruskbite's stories before, they've been on my list. And this is a horror story of in the Harry Potter universe, in the vein of The Thing, the old movie. I really enjoyed this. The author was able to really instill a sense of dread that keeps building through each of our narrators' encounters. It's interesting. It ends with a nice little scare that most horror movies nowadays really end up on. So it really feels like a kind of like a horror movie, and I really enjoy this. Really unnerving feeling throughout most of it, and yeah, it's gonna stay on my list. So there we have it, the end of the aughts decade of fanfics for my journey. 380 stories were in that decade, and 194 have stayed on my list, just a little over half, which is pretty close. I'm still waiting for when it ticks back and ticks over into the other direction, but we'll see. If you want to read any of these stories, please look down in the description. Links will be there. If you want to be up to date for when I post my next video, please subscribe. Maybe leave a like if you like this video. And thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video with a new decade of stories. See ya.